Hello, dear friends. With us is the Kabbalist Dr. Michael Laitman. Hello. And so, we're on our show, Secrets of the Eternal Book, Book of Prophets, Yoshua bin Nun, the first book. It's the last chapter in this book, chapter number 24, that tells about how the Israelites entered the land of Israel and established themselves there. That it's a non-simple business. So this is the final chapter, and I'd like for you to commentate the entire path that Yoshua bin Nun goes through. It's the last time that he sees his nation. He gathered them in Shechem, all the elders and the clans and tribes and everything, and it says, and they stood before the Creator. And then Yoshua bin Nun says about the path that the nation has gone through. You're all the time saying that is a path that a person goes through. Now, the stages that the person goes through in order to enter the land of Israel. I'll read slowly and you explain. And Joshua said to the whole nation, Thus said the Lord God of Israel, your fathers dwelt on the other side of the river from earliest time, Terah, the father of Abraham, and the father of Nahor, and they served other gods. Right, meaning on a completely different level, in a completely different desire, in a completely different land. Land, in Hebrew, also means desire. And so they served other gods, not the quality of bestowal and love, but the ordinary ego. There are different options of how to exist. Either you exist in your own innate ego that we were born in and developed in, or in something else, where you cross the river, so to speak, and you enter the land of Israel. Land, as we said, means Ratzon, desire. Israel means to be aimed straight toward the Creator. When you aspire to attain the quality, the desire of the Creator, then you become a completely different person. And here you have to work on yourself, Semion. And it's all happening in one person, Dr. Laitman, every person. Semion, so what does it mean that I once prayed to other gods, Dr. Laitman? But once you were an egoist and thought only about yourself, then you became acquainted with there being a greater, tremendous, exalted idea in the world. You've accepted it, and you start adjusting yourself to it, nearing it. Semion, what other gods, Dr. Laitman? All egoistic gods, and there's a tremendous amount of them. Just go outside and see everyone bows to their own gods, what they want. Semion, so all these desires that we're talking about, money, honor, knowledge, Dr. Laitman, these are all gods, and those who want to reach the degree of love and bestow love for others, they have another creator, their creator, one God. Then it says, and I took your father Abraham from the other side of the river and led him throughout all the land of Canaan and multiplied his seed and gave him Isaac. Meaning that from that other side, from the Tigris, Prat, where they lived, in between the two rivers, the Euphrates, and in between those two desires, the Creator brought them to completely different desires and intentions, to a different level of their existence. It means that geographically they as if came from that side to this land. Semion, what does it mean that I've taken your father Abraham over the river, led him through the land of Canaan? Dr. Light, meaning that gradually, and Abraham started to awaken a completely new idea, task, desire, intention, questions about the meaning of life, the desire to achieve, attain the upper force, etc. And this is what led him gradually through this inner search to a point where he found the Creator. Simeon, and if we're talking about Abraham within us, Dr. Laitman, that's how it is in every person, Simeon. So he finds Abraham inside of him. So once Abraham already walked this land, and, nothing really came out. So it turns out, Dr. Laitman, I don't understand. What Abraham and what land did he walk? Simeon. And he led him throughout all the land of Canaan and multiplied his seed and gave him Isaac. Dr. Laitman, yeah? That a person searches for his purpose in life, and he tries and goes through different things. It's specifically in order for him to scrutinize what is it that he really needs in this life. And when the Creator finally reveals the meaning of life to him, you understand that this is it. Simeon, so we're walking the same land all the time. There's Yoshua bin Nun now, and before that there was Abraham. Dr. Laitman, in our desire, we want to achieve the truth. And until it appears in us, how can it appear? You can't give it to a child. You can give it to a person who searched for it for a long time, that developed himself, and that will be able to acknowledge this truth. Simeon, so is it possible to say that Abraham had to grow to the degree of Joshua? Dr. Laitman, yeah. Simeon, and where it says multiplied his seed and gave him Isaac, but there was also Ishmael. Why specifically Isaac? Dr. Laitman, well, that depends on the root of the soul. Isaac had the opposite side of Abraham. Abraham is the right side, Isaac is the left side, and then Yaakov will be the left line. And Ishmael didn't have that combination, that root, that beginning. And he remained close and everything, but that's it. Simeon, the Ishmael in us, what is that, Dr. Laitman? Ishmael in us is he who also searches for his purpose in life and the Creator, but is all the time advancing there indirectly, that he's lacking something all the time. And he's all the time next to Abraham or his descendants, and all the time stands in their way, disturbs them, Simeon, and helps them by it. Dr. Light helps them and disturbs them, disrupts them, and it says so in the Torah that at the end of days, when the children of Israel will return to the Holy Land, to which the Creator brought Abraham directly from Ur Kasdim, then this land will initially already be filled with the descendants of Ishmael, and they will not allow the descendants of Abraham to enter this land, and we feel it to this day. Simeon, meaning they want something from the descendants of Abraham. Dr. Light, of course, they want something. We want something. And eventually what will come out is what the Creator wants. Simeon, and I gave to Isaac Jacob and Esau, and I gave to Esau Mount Seir to inherit it, and Jacob and his children went down into Egypt. What does it mean that I gave? What does it mean that, and Jacob and his children, that I gave to Isaac, Jacob, and Esau? Jacob is the middle line, and Esau, Dr. Laitman, it's a shell, it's a klipa, Simeon. And then it says, and I gave to Isaac, Jacob, and Esau, and I gave to Esau Mount Seir to inherit it, and Jacob and his children went down into Egypt. What's the split on the path, on their paths? Dr. Laitman, you had to divide them because they interfered with one another. These are two different ways. They couldn't attain the Creator by going together. And therefore you could satisfy the one and the other by giving the amount of Seir to Esau and Jacob. It was necessary to send him off into Egypt, so that there he will accumulate further heavier desires, different egoistic ones of different kinds, because he lacked them in order to seriously advance toward the goal. Simeon. So what happens here is that Jacob, he as if develops and Esau doesn't. Dr. Laitman, Esau does not need to develop. To begin with, he has such desires. And the amount of se'il in Hebrew means hair, that it's covered with hair, that everything that it speaks of, everything that it says about him is that it's a desire that does not need to develop, but it's serious and strong. Simeon, what is this desire? Dr. Laitman, it is an egoistic desire to attain the Creator without correcting yourself. Simeon, and then it says, and I sent Moses and Aaron, and I plagued the Egyptians according to that which I did in their midst, and afterward I brought you out. Dr. Laitman, yeah, that's about the future. Simeon, he simply explains about the path of Joshua to the people, and I sent Moses and Aaron, and I plagued the Egyptians according to that which I did in their midst, etc. What does it mean, Dr. Laitman? It tells about the spiritual path of a person and of an entire nation. Simeon, that person feels himself in Egypt. Dr. Laitman feels himself in Egypt and the Egyptian slavery, that he's under the rule of Pharaoh, and that there's nothing that you can do about it, but to somehow break loose of that slavery. Simeon, when does the Creator send Moses and Aaron to help Dr. Laitman? When it's necessary. When such desires develop in a person that he can no longer remain under egoistic rulership. Simeon, so this is the prayer, right? He's asking, give me the strength to, or get me out of here, or Dr. Laitman, yeah. Simeon, this is what a person goes into Egypt for in order to cry out. Dr. Laitman, eventually, yes, but not only. Before that, he has to go down into Egypt. In Egypt, he has to be there for 400 years to get the 4 degrees of the egoistic desire, so that Pharaoh will sit on him and will pass on to him his entire egoistic desire, intention, and then he will feel the difference between him and Pharaoh, that these are two opposite poles that exist in nature, and then he'll have no other choice but to run. And as it says, and the children of Israel cried out, and the Creator heard them, meaning that all of a person's qualities are revealed by a person as completely in complete disparity of form, that they're completely egoistic, and therefore he must rise from our world to the level of faith above reason, the quality of bestowal, etc. Simeon. And then Moses and Aaron come. Right. And then it says, and I brought your fathers out of Egypt, and you came to the sea, and the Egyptians pursued your fathers with chariots and horsemen to the Red Sea. And they cried to the Lord, and he put darkness between you and the Egyptians, and brought the sea upon him, and it covered him. And your eyes have seen what I have done in Egypt, and you sojourned in the wilderness many days in the desert. Yeah. So even though that we already talked about this, but if you can explain it a bit. Okay, so let's go piece by piece. Okay. And I brought your forefathers out of Egypt, and the Egyptians pursued them. Dr. Laitman, meaning that they could rise above their ego, come out of Egypt where Pharaoh ruled, to a state where he does not rule, but where there's still no quality of bestowal. And it comes only after the reception of the Torah on Mount Sinai, but they already feel that they are under the influence of Pharaoh. and that they come to a state where you have to cross the border between Egypt, between the egoistic desires that are called Egypt, the essence of evil, mitzvah in Hebrew. That's what Egypt means. Simeon, why do these desires, why do they pursue a person? Dr. Laitman, it happens inside a person because a person, he starts asking, how am I going to live? I need to fulfill my desires, but to fulfill them with what? That's one thing. And the second thing is that Pharaoh, he too lives at the expense of the Israelis that ran away from him because they connect him with the upper force. And so what follows is that he can't be without them, and they actually also can't really be without him. And so what happens here is that there's a kind of space here where they understand how interdependent they are. And then it says, and they cried to the Lord, and he put darkness between you and the Egyptians and brought the sea upon him, and it covered him, and your eyes have seen what I had done in Egypt, etc. Yeah, it's truly a serious salvation, because the nation of Israel, they had zero forces to come out of Egypt, but only the darkness that the Creator created in Egypt, setting the conditions to quietly leave without being seen, and also now to push a person to get out of Egypt, so that in every possible way he'll try to get out of there, Simeon, and that the force of the Creator appears, that he covers the Egyptians with the sea, etc. What is it all done for? Dr. Laitman, it demonstrates to a person, because we're talking about a person, we're not talking about Egyptians or anyone or anything, we're talking about a person who is battling to rise above his ego, and it shows a person that it is possible, Simeon. And it says, and I brought you to the land of the Amorites who dwelt on the other side of the Jordan, and they waged war with you, and I delivered them into your hand, and you inherited their land, and I destroyed them from before you. Then Balak, the son of Zippor, king of Moab, arose and warred against Israel, and he sent and called Balaam, the son of Beor, to curse you. There are many forces that as if work against the Creator, against Israel. And in order to create the conditions that the Creator won't do everything for you. And this is actually what needs to happen. So nature is built on the balance of forces, and precisely in the balance of the right and left lines appears the middle line in which we have to exist, Simeon. So Balak and Bilam, they have the same force as Dr. Laitman, as the Creator. Simeon, this is why these two forces are talked about. Okay, Simeon, and the people of Israel can balance out these two forces with the help of the Creator. And so what follows is that the nation of Israel can exist in the middle line. Simeon, why was it so, the curse of Bilam, why was it so terrible? Dr. Laitman, it is a force that is added from the left line. Not even from the left line, but it's the klipa, the shell of the left line. So it's a very serious burdening of the, coming out of Egypt, So what is this curse actually, asks Simeon, Dr. Laitman. The curse is an additional weight in accepting the law, the general law of bestowal and love, that, does not allow to accept, the curse does not allow you to accept this law. Simeon, so it's a true curse for those who advance toward the Creator. Dr. Laitman, of course. For the rest, it could even be a blessing. Simeon, that's interesting. And you crossed the Jordan and came to Jericho, and the inhabitants of Jericho fought against you, and the Amorites, and the Hittites, and the Canaanites, and the Girshites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, and I delivered them into your hand. So these 7 nations, they're mentioned. Dr. Laitman. Well, this corresponds to the 7 attributes in which the entire scrutiny between the egoism and altruism occurs in a person, the so-called 7 sfirot of the Zaranpin, that all have to be cleansed and to start receiving in order to bestow in him. To bestow in order to bestow, which is the quality of Binah, to receive in order to bestow, the quality of Keter, and to advance this way. Simeon, so can we say that we need to go through these 7 nations, the Zaranpin, in order to rise to Binah? Dr. Laitman, necessarily. And this is what they correct. Simeon, so they clear the path, and that's why 7. And then it says, and I have given you a land for which you did not labor, and cities which you did not build, and you have settled in them. Of the vineyards and olive yards which you did not plant, you eat. So, he's not teasing them. He's just saying that what you've conquered, and this the reward. Not even a reward, but it's what you've conquered. You deserve it. That you don't need to plant or build anything, says Simeon. Dr. Laitman, yeah, it's not yours. You don't need to plant or build anything. You need to fight your inner enemies, Simeon, and then it will all be yours. So you have to exert just in one direction. And now fear the Lord and serve Him in sincerity and in truth, and remove the gods which your fathers served on the other side of the river and in Egypt, and serve the Lord. Meaning the Creator gave it to the nation with the sole purpose of them serving God, Dr. Laitman. And there's no need to do anything else. This is the task of the nation of Israel, to be directed toward the Creator and to correct all the appearing the desires that oppose the Creator, in short. Simeon, what does it mean to serve God? Dr. Laitman, it means to correct all the egoistic desires that you can discover in yourself. You need to direct them toward the Creator. Simeon, how do you discover these desires in yourself? How? Dr. Laitman, in your attitude, relation toward others. You can't reveal them in and of themselves in you. The main law is love another as yourself. And only based on this law can you discover in yourself who and what you are and what you need to correct. Simeon, so my resistance not to obey this law, these are these nations inside of me. Dr. Laitman, yeah. Simeon, and then it says, and if it displeases you to serve the Lord, choose this day whom you will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served that were on the other side of the river, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you dwell. But as for me and my household, we shall serve the Lord. This is what Joshua says to the nation. To me, it's clear. You need to choose. Dr. Laitman, right. There are many ways to the Creator, as it says. Each desire in a person says that it knows how to do it. But actually, there's just one way. And only in the desire to bestow, that is put over each desire to receive. Only this way can we advance toward the Creator without deviating from the path. Meaning we have to watch ourselves so that our intentions will be directed only toward bestowal, toward love, through everyone, the closer, the further toward the Creator. Meaning love toward the other, toward people. It is set here as sights on a rifle, that if you look through them, then you aim directly toward the Creator, you attain Him. Simeon, if you don't have sights, then Dr. Laitman, then Simeon, and I and the Creator directly, there's no such connection? Dr. Laitman, no, that doesn't exist. How are you going to do it? Without sights, you're not going to get anywhere. Simeon, humanity is trying to get there for thousands of years. Dr. Laitman, this is exactly that there are almost 3,000 different beliefs and religions, etc. Simeon, but a person has a feeling that he is connected, Dr. Laitman, because he's personally directed or feels it. It's just me and the Creator. He doesn't have to connect with anyone else, take anyone else into consideration. Just me and the Creator, and we'll get along. Simeon, and Joshua made a covenant with the people that day and set them a statute and an ordinance in Shechem. And Joshua wrote these words in the book of the law of God and took a great stone and set it under the doorpost, which is in the sanctuary of the Lord. And Joshua said to all the people, Behold, this stone shall be a witness against us, for it has heard all the words of the Lord which he spoke to us. It shall be a witness against you, lest you deny your God. So my final question is, what is a stone that hears? Dr. Laitman, a stone, even in Hebrew, comes from the word havana, understanding. If it is a special stone, then a person feels it inside of him, either as a stone or as something alive that hears. The heart is not just called a stony heart or a living heart. So we need to make it so that the stones will feel and hear and live. And we built it out of such stones so that we will build the Creator's temple out of the stones, the living stones of our heart. Simeon. So, precisely to build the temple for the Creator out of these living stones. Dr. Laitman, yeah, it's the basis of the nation and the country and all of mankind, but actually for the sake of the Creator. Simeon, and still, I'd like to ask, until when is it necessary to threaten that unless you serve the Creator, Dr. Laitman, till the very end, till the very correction? Simeon, but we know what's going to happen later. Dr. Laitman, doesn't matter. And nonetheless, every time they will nonetheless be punished, we'll get a reward, and we'll advance that way between the two. Simeon, so why don't we learn from it, Dr. Laitman? It's not that we're not learning from it. We do learn from it, and we can't say that we're so stupid that we don't learn anything from the past. The thing is that every time appear new desires, new disturbances, and we can't take the old and advance with it, meaning practically, when we will achieve the goal, we will see that actually everything was fine. Simeon, and that we were on the right path. Dr. Laitman, yes. Dr. Laitman, and it ends, and after all this, after these things, that Joshua the son of Nun, the servant of the Lord, died, being 110 years old, and they buried him in the border of his inheritance in Timnah Serach, which is in the Mount Ephraim on the north side of the hill of Gash, and the bones of Joseph, which the children of Israel had brought out of Egypt, they buried in Shechem, in the parcel of ground which Jacob brought from the sons of Hamor, the father of Shechem. And Elazar, the son of Aaron, died, and they buried him in the hill of Pinchas, his son. So, why did they carry the bones of Joseph? Dr. Laitman, no, these aren't bones. It's not a box with stones, It means that a person takes with himself a direction, life philosophy, that which he receives from his forefathers, and this directs him in life how to advance. They don't actually physically go any place. It doesn't talk about that in the Torah. It's all about the spiritual search and direction, Simeon. So a person could sit and go through the different states of Egypt and everything. Dr. Laitman, of course, what? You need to walk on those rocks for it. What will it give you, Simeon? So when it says that the bones of Joseph were brought from Egypt, it just simply means that they held on to that very basis. What is it, Dr. Laitman? Yosef is Yesod. His foundation is connection, his essence. It's even before they went down, the 12 sons of Jacob, before they went into Egypt. Without Joseph, they simply couldn't. Simeon, so they constantly bear this reminder that they have to be a united nation. So why don't we carry the bones of Joseph nowadays, Dr. Laitman? Well, I hope that we will start acknowledging that it is necessary for us, and Yosef, from the word lasof, to collect, that we'll be able to gather all of our forces and intentions and despairs and eventually understand that we have one goal, and only by realizing it will we quickly achieve all that which we need, which was given to us to do. Simeon. Amen. This completes the book of Joshua ben Nun. Thank you very much.